right, welcome everyone. Would you join me in standing, and we'll have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful spring day. Thanks for gathering us together to transact county business. Thanks for those that are here for a variety of reasons, and we just pray, Lord, that we would represent the constituents of our county to the best of our ability, make choices that are in the best interest of everyone in this county. We pray for our first responders, and we are certainly grateful for our paid, those that are paid, those that are volunteers. We are grateful, Lord, for the servicemen and women that represent our community, our state, and our country. We pray for their safety and well-being. We pray for the conflict abroad, Lord, that you would bring that to an end soon. We just turn this meeting now over to you and ask that you guide everything that we do here. In Christ's name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, for the record, this is April 11th, 2022. This is our first major meeting of the month of April, and we'll begin with item number 1, public comment time. If there's anyone that would like to address the court on a non-agenda item, this would be a good time to do that, or you may wait until one of the agenda items if you would like to speak at that time. All right, I'll take that as a no at this time. Item number 2, consider and possibly approve minutes from the March 28th, 2022 special meeting of the Commissioners Court.
Make that motion.
Motion to approve that set of minutes is made by Commissioner Parchman.
Second.
A second by Commissioner Applewhite. Any discussion? All in favor of approval of that set of minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 3 is a report from commissioners regarding road work status. I'll start with number 1, Commissioner Parchman.
We are redoing County Road 1455, getting it ready for chip sealing. We've been replacing culverts and fixing a few soft spots and still side cutting.
Thank you.
We had several trees down this weekend. Started last Thursday and Friday. We've had trees down on 2730, 2400, 2850, and 1070. We're getting those cleaned up today. We've been side cutting also around the county, and we patched some soft spots on 2850 and 4550. And we put in 2 new culverts across. One was on 1220 and one was across 1070. And we've been out, cleaned up all our bridge rails on all our bridges. That's it right now.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Applewhite.
Well, we had trees down yesterday and today, and they're out getting trees right now, and we got one more culvert on 3365 to put in, and then we'll be ready to start tearing up chip seal, and we cleaned out a ditchway and repaired one on County Road 3250. That's about it.
All righty, thank you. Commissioner Parker is out today. His son was having surgery, and they needed some additional manpower in the family, so he and Barbara are with them today. Item number 4, this is a presentation by CASA, Court-Appointed Special Advocates of Titus Camp and Morris. And these ladies come to see us at least once a year to tell us about the fantastic work that they are doing. Ms. Hosmer, we welcome you and your guests today. If you would introduce yourself, and then the floor is yours.
My name is Crystal Hosmer. I'm the Executive Director of CASA Titus Camp in Morris County. Good morning, Judge Lee, County Commissioners, and guests. Thank you for the opportunity that allowed me to speak to y'all today, letting y'all know about why CASA's role in our community is so important, as this month is Child Abuse Awareness Month. You may look around the courthouse and on the courthouse lawn and see blue ribbons and blue pinwheels. The blue ribbons represent our color for the month, which is blue, And then, of course, the pinwheels represent each child that CASA of Titus Camp in Morris County served last year. We served 159 children in 3 counties. CASA of Titus Camp in Morris County is one of 72 CASA programs across the state of Texas. We ensure that children are placed in the foster care system due to abuse and neglect have safety, stability, and nurturing they need to thrive. We recruit and train members of the community who are called CASA volunteers, court-appointed special advocates to speak in the court and present to judge and the attorneys to ensure that they are placed in a safe, permanent, and stable home as quickly as possible. A district judge in our county may appoint a specially trained CASA volunteer and an attorney to be a guardian ad litem for the child or a sibling in a CPS case. Each time a specially trained volunteer is placed on a case, it saves their lives and it saves taxpayers money. 1 year of a CASA advocacy costs less than 1 month of foster care. CASA of Titus Camp in Morris County has been serving children for 8 years. The program was established on October the 1st of 2013. To kind of give y'all a little bit of the work that we've done this past year, just staff hours were contributed out of Titus County was 1,040 staff hours. 519 volunteer hours served children in Titus County. Why is there a difference in the number, y'all may ask? It's because we don't have enough volunteers to serve our kids. So when we have a volunteer unserving on a case, that supervisor steps in, or each case has a supervisor and a volunteer appointed to that case. Miles traveled by a CASA volunteer this past year, just for Titus County kids, was 3,843 miles. Is that a lot? It is. But we need foster homes in this area. All of our kids are not placed within this county. We've got kids placed all over the state of Texas. We have a few placed out of the state of Texas currently, but we do travel to visit these kids and ensure that they are safe in wherever they are placed. 66 of the 159 children that we served were out of Titus County this past year. 35 of those 66 children cases was able to be closed this past year. 24 of those children were reunited with their parents. Those parents worked their services. They did what they needed to do. They demonstrated to the court that what got them in this situation has now been resolved, and these kids were able to go home. 9 of those children were adopted, and 2 of those children were placed with a legal guardian. Out of the 100% of children that CASA served in all 3 counties, 36% of those children were under the age of 5. 16% of those children were ages 6 through 11. 14% of those children were ages 12 to 18. 27% of those children were female, and 39% of those children were males. 40 CASA volunteers served 159 children this past year. Why is CASA such a good investment? As we do appreciate the monthly contribution that y'all contribute to our program every single month. CASA volunteers provide a consistent presence in a child's life during the time that they are in the foster care system. CPS workers, the overturn with CPS workers is a constant thing that we deal with. So when you have an overturn with CPS worker, that child gets a new face, different face, somebody else that they have to get to know. A CASA volunteer stays on that with that child until whatever the outcome of that case may be, whether they're adopted, unified with their parents, or even aging out of care. We work to ensure that children are safe during their time, stay by the child's side throughout the duration of the case. We are also working more with the family. The statistics are showing that the support, even from the CASA volunteer, even though we do represent the child, that children in their reunification numbers are more successful. Children are less likely to spend time in foster care, less likely to re-enter foster care once they find a permanent home. Increase the well-being of children in foster care. Not only do we serve these children in their placements, but we advocate for these children's educational and medical needs. We can go to the doctor visits with these kids. We can go to the schools and talk with the teachers and make sure that their educational needs are being met. Or if they're struggling in school, we find out why, what else needs to be done. More likely to find a forever family. Unfortunately, not all of our kids that we serve get to go home. That is a sad day when that does happen. But we do work along to make sure that they all do get a home as quickly as possible. We help reestablish healthy and family connections, because regardless of what the situation is, these children love their parents. And we advocate for the best interest of the children that they serve. Even though we may work along with the families and ensure that, we tell all of our parents, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, we will support that and go along with that. But the moment that you cannot do those things, those are the moments that our recommendations have to change. I hope you see the value that the CASA program contributes to our children in Titus County. I have been with the CASA program for 7 years. I was an advocate supervisor prior to becoming ED. Been ED for a year. So I have seen what y'all's contribution, the work that it does. And I cannot thank you enough for what y'all do in supporting children in foster care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing what you do.
Well, Crystal, I know we don't give a whole lot, and I know that you all operate primarily on the generosity and kindness and love of a lot of volunteers. How many total volunteers do you have in the organization?
40 at the moment, sir.
40 at the moment, and those among those 40, that's where all those 3,000 miles were driven.
Yes, sir.
And how much of that mileage can be reimbursed to those that, I mean, just as an example of that money that's they're out of pocket driving their own vehicles, do they get any kind of mileage reimbursement
They
for
can
that?
get a mileage reimbursement, and it's whatever that mileage reimbursement rate is for that year. So right now it's 58.5 cents per mile is what they get.
Where are we in comparison to the last couple of years? Are our numbers up, down, level?
For children served?
Yes.
They are currently down. The House bill passed a new House bill this past September to where children have to be in imminent danger to be removed from the home. It's scary also to think about it, as we have not faced this tragedy in our county or any of our other two counties that we serve. But children have lost their lives this past year because of the new House bill. So they are watching that closely. They are monitoring that very, very closely. And so we pray that nothing happens like that in our counties with that new change.
Remind us where your offices are.
Yes. We are located off of 5th Street. Our office is at 307 East 5th Street. If you know where Tennyson United Memorial Methodist Church is, we are in the building directly behind them.
On the north end of their campus.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any questions for Ms. Hosmer? Well, thank you for taking the time to come and to remind the rest of the community of the work that CASA does. Thank you for just the fact that I know you relieve taxpayers of the burden of providing a paid attorney to represent these kids. Not only are there a lot of other benefits to that child by having and this is not a derogatory comment toward an attorney, but somebody who's in it, for the right reasons according to what motivates their heart, I've got to believe is the best possible person for that job. And so we appreciate the fact that you are able to provide volunteers like that as opposed to a legally mandated attorney assigned to that child. And we know there's got to be a lot of benefits from that. But thank you for your continued work in our community. We appreciate you all being here.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
May we be excused?
Certainly.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, item number 5, presentation by Chief Larry McRae of Mount Pleasant Fire Department, and he is here to give us our bi-monthly update on Titus County and City of Mount Pleasant coordination of fire protection. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Judge. I passed out the package to y'all this morning. I know it was a little late, but I was in South Texas last week on wildfires, and y'all's office was closed Friday, so we didn't get them up here. So,
Well, tell us about what you were doing and how many guys were there with you.
we've got, we're part of the TIFMA strike team, the Texas Interstate Fire Mutual Aid System. It's basically departments across Texas that participate in that and provide manpower for situations like what's going on in Texas right now. I'm a strike team leader for it, so I took 5 engines, brush trucks. We had 18 people from Lufkin, Nacogdoches, Mount Pleasant, Texarkana, Lufkin, I think was one. There was 18 of us on that crew. And basically we go help out the locals when it gets, when the fires are so bad, and that we go down and help. There's, I think right now there's 5 strike teams across the state right now. And apparently it's going to be a long summer from what we're understanding, so we may be back out again. We rotate the people. We leave the trucks down there and just send new people down for a 21-day cycle. So we worked on Fort Hood. It was about I think they decided it was about a 50,000 acre fire there, and then we went to the King Ranch and worked about a 60,000 acre fire there. And then went and stayed in Pleasanton, which is just south of San Antonio, and worked a 400 acre fire there. And then yesterday, after I left and came home, they went to another one. It was about 400 acres. So again, we're in it for the long haul. So.
How long were you gone?
I was gone for about 10 days. We're setting it up now where we'll be a 21-day rotation, but we can leave the trucks for 21 days, but we can rotate personnel in and out. So instead of wearing them all out. So there was one day it worked out. We had to work 37 hours straight before we got a break. So had to do that in a while, but it's all part of it.
Glad you're young and energetic.
Energetic, maybe not so young. So anyway, thank you, Judge. I've presented the stuff to you. Some of this is, not going to change a whole lot. As far as the attendance of the chief's meetings, you can see the people that are attending those meetings and are not. That's still pretty consistent. The volunteer membership and training, this is just for the first part of 22, January, February, is what these numbers are for. And you can look through that and see that there are quite a few people, the volunteers, that have not received any training this year. The next tab was where it shows the monthly countywide training. That's training that our department provides countywide. Invites all the county volunteer fire departments to come attend that.
Will you hold on just and jump back to the first report there? And here's where you list by department those that are currently on the rosters, and then the orange bar indicates those that are the most active. In fact, I guess that's defined as the ones in that department that make 25% or more of those calls. And then the yellow highlights is a career firefighter. In other words, they're paid. They work for the city and they're paid. And then the X's
indicates that they've had training in those subjects. That's an ongoing. The subject training is an ongoing cumulative. The hours on the very right side of the page is what has been done for 22 only. The first 2 months of 22. And that's all training, not just at their departments. That's cumulative for what they have in their departments as well as what they attend at the county-wide training.
Thank you.
And then on the county-wide training, it shows the departments that were there in January. And again, the numbers of members of the VFDs fluctuates up and down. You can see in January it shows we had 106, and then in February it shows 97. But even it's about, on average, about 14 or 15 people that's all that's attending the county-wide training. Then the next tab is showing the volunteer fire training sessions, and these are the training sessions that are put on at their volunteer departments, and shows the number of people that attended for each department. Accompanying that is the breakdown of what each volunteer fire department trained on, or I take that back, it shows the membership from each volunteer fire department and what training they got at the VFD.
Generally speaking, how are we doing in training according to what we've asked them to do with our volunteers in accordance with the number of hours that we're asking of them to get trained?
Not real good. I mean, some departments better than others. It's kind of hit and miss. And again, we talked about training. When they do show up, if they're not trained, that is a problem.
And training can be either put on by the City of Mount Pleasant, it can be provided for them online through the modules that you've made available on the internet, or they might have in-house training at their own department.
Correct. And there's been very little of the VFDs that are taking advantage of the training that we're providing online. And again, the countywide training, as you can see, we don't have very good turnout for that. So training is not really what it should be. The next tab kind of goes along with that. Not only training is important, but response. I've included in that tab not only for this month, this year, January, February, but also everything that was in 2021. So there's almost a year's worth of data there, and it's changing very little. As far as VFD response, it averages about 30 that are making more than 1 in 4 calls.
30% or 30?
30 people.
30 people.
30 people out of 90-something that are making more than 1 in 4 calls, 25%.
Okay, so volunteer response 2022, that would be in this report, January and February. January, 42 of 68 didn't make any calls. In February, 24 of 63 didn't make any calls, so a little better in February.
Yes.
And then some of these membership numbers are actually double counts because we have some people that might serve on 2 departments.
Correct. And as for Sugar Hill, we're really not sure who's on the Sugar Hill department, and I will address that here in a minute. The document behind those summary pages actually breaks it down into who is making the calls.
Are you talking about
Yes, for that one.
this summary here?
Yes. Yeah, each department is broken down by, it shows who's making the calls, each department. And we take the summary sheets based on the information off of that one that you just held up.
That's not the number of people, that's the number of times somebody showed up, or that is the number of people that have made a call?
On which one are you talking
On this summary sheet right here, tell me exactly what those numbers
on the
mean.
front page right there that you just held up?
Yeah.
That's for the calls that each department would have, that was dispatched to.
Okay.
And then the sheets behind that breaks it down into the individual departments by members and how many calls each one of the members made. And then out to the far right side is a cumulative number for the year.
So looking there on the first one, 5-star in January, there were a total of 13 runs that were made
January, yes, sir.
in January. And the higher the number, that means obviously the more that particular individual, the more incidents that person attended.
Yes, sir. Like Crouch there on the very top, he made 6 out of 13. And then over to the far right is a cumulative of the number of calls on the very top. And then the column under that is the cumulative for each person.
Okay.
So again, if you take Crouch all the way over to the right, he's made 14 out of 23.
Okay. And you've got that just in order of most to least
Yes,
number
yes.
of events attended.
Yes. The tab behind that is the overlapping calls. And I didn't go in and break it out and write down what each one call was and what have you. I think this is, these two sheets here indicating that about 25% of our calls overlap, which means we're already on one call and another call comes in 25% of the time so far this year.
An overlapping event is where you've got some manpower allocated to one event at the same time that
Yes.
you have another call or another need. And obviously they can't be in two places at one time. So
Correct.
the more overlapping events, those are the ones that you get nervous about,
Yes.
where the concern is that if you and your men are fighting a large event, something else occurs either within the city or out in the county, the dependence upon you is, strained because, again, you're already at an event.
And so far on most of the calls that have been overlapping, the status of the first call, where we're at in it, has allowed us to be able to cut resources loose, or we may have just been finishing up with that first call and the other one came in, and we're able to release all the resources. But, the law of averages, sooner or later is going to catch up that we're going to have something bad happen.
And an incident type, you've got some 114s, 311s, 141s. What are some of the different types?
Yeah, the 114s are grass fires. The 311 is a motor vehicle accident. The 111, the 111, that's a structure fire. The 600 is like a good intent call because somebody might have smelled gas or smoke or something like that. The 321, that's like a motor vehicle accident that we're just helping. Or I'll take that back. That's not a motor vehicle accident. That is a first responder call where we're helping the medics.
So on the 13th and on the 20th, you've got 4 and 5 different events going on within the county.
And some of them are, you can see out to the very far right side, it'll tell you where we're at, whether it's out in the county. If it's in the county, it'll tell you which fire district we're in, which on the 13th, those were all out in the county. Yes, sir.
Okay.
The tab behind that is the status of the SOPs and equipment that's required by the agreement with between the county and the VFDs on the things they're supposed to be turning in. And that's been going on for about a year now. And if it's in red, that is still things that have not been turned in for last year or this year, either one.
And the standard operating procedures, you like to have copies of that. What's the purpose of that?
To make sure they're not conflicting with ours.
Okay.
When we're on scene, we all need to be on the same page. It also needs to address how they would have operated an incident by themselves, or if we're not there, or they get there before us, and then when we are there, how they operate. So that their SOPs will be a little bit different from ours, but they don't need to conflict with what we're doing. And the very last page shows the drought. This was from last Thursday. It has improved a little bit from this past Thursday. The red is not quite as prevalent across the state, but we're still the severe and moderate for our county still is pretty much still the same. The red has gone away, and hopefully the rain we're going to get this week will help improve that a little bit. But the Forest Service folks that do the fire behavior analysts or the weather and all that are predicting that we're going to have a hot, dry summer. And there is some folks that are predicting that this drought cycle that we're in will continue through 2027. So we'll see who's right. Yeah.
Okay.
In talking about response and that kind of stuff, if you go back to that tab,
Well, can I
yes,
first get you to look at that status of SOPs and equipment testing?
yes,
And I do see in red a lot. I see Talco, which kind of surprises me. Is that just perhaps a lack of getting you the documentation? I mean, here we have a functioning city fire department up in Talco. Is reality better than what we're seeing here by their name being in red?
For lack of a term, the oddball out, because they're not covered by the agreement, so they really don't have to do any of this. There's nothing that requires them to do any of this.
So the fact that they're listed in red doesn't necessarily mean that they're not conducting cylinder hydro tests or hose testing or fire extinguisher tests?
Yes. Like I said, they don't have to participate.
Okay. But then we've got Argo and Sugar Hill that show up also predominantly there. Those are the two that jump out at me.
Yeah, and as far as Sugar Hill, last year, it's been almost a year, a group of people up in Sugar Hill got upset when the former members of the VFD said they were going to shut the department down, and because, quite frankly, they couldn't get members for the department, and Jerry and them finally just said, we're through. Well, that group met, and about 20 people signed up to be firefighters for that department to keep it going. Now, that's been about 10 months ago, almost a year. Since then, there's been little to no training done by these members, even though, as you said earlier, we provide, go above and beyond and provide the training. They're just not taking advantage of it. Sugar Hill has not responded to 73% of their calls from November 1st up until April the 8th. This causes us, our department, and the other VFDs to have to cover that area, and then we receive little to no help from them when we need help in those other VFD areas. I've talked to Colton House and his wife, Marcus Carlisle, and Thomas Collier, which were members of the department, and they've told me they're no longer members of that department. I know Commissioner Applewhite was a member. Do you still consider yourself a member?
Well, I'm finna get off of it. I'm finna get off, but
So
it's
you're
just
not
conflict
there
of
anymore?
interest.
Okay, so
both
based
of
on
them.
what they turned in to Barbara on the run sheets for February, it looks like there's maybe 3 members of the Sugar Hill Fire Department. The chief never does come to any of our meetings. Basically, the bottom line is there is no functioning fire department in Sugar Hill, Texas, and there's no reason to believe there ever will be. We've given them 10 months. There was 20 people that signed up. They're just not functioning.
Well, and in reality, before we meet on Sugar Hill, this was a problem that Chief identified, a year ago, and, came to the conclusion that he and Michelle were ready to retire, but unfortunately were unable to generate enough consistency in their volunteer base, and that was his recommendation, is that we appropriately shut down this department. And consequently, we had an uprising of emotion, and folks that said, no, let's don't let this thing fail. Let's get in here and boost this membership list back up, which I still appreciate anybody who's willing to, support the efforts of a department. But for whatever reason, we just don't seem to be able to have the availability of these volunteers. Doesn't make them bad people, doesn't make them lazy. It just, for whatever reason, we're not able to get a group of people that have flexibility in their jobs, in their family, et cetera, et cetera. And we've talked about this volunteerism problem, but we seem to be, in my opinion, we just never have really broken through and produced a department from out of the ashes, as it were, but we were talking seriously. In fact, we had begun the process of closing down that department. So, again, I'm not here to criticize any one member of that department, whether they had, intentions of being a functional volunteer or whatever. I'm not well suited to be a volunteer fireman either. So I'm just looking at the situation overall. I don't know how this court feels about this. I know we've all got mixed emotion. This is a difficult discussion. These are difficult decisions. But we're continuing to pay out monies to a department that I don't want that community to be lulled into the feeling that we've got a volunteer fire department that is protecting us, when in reality it's the city of Mount Pleasant, and we're certainly grateful that you are there and that other team members from other departments are able to help out, but we just don't seem to be able to have what we need there in Sugar Hill. I don't know if we continue to give them additional time. I am of the opinion that it is time to make a decision, or we need to put some deadlines on this as far as what our expectations are. I don't think that it's prudent for the county to continue to give money to a department that's not training, that's not attending, that's not showing up, that's not able to show up for these events. I don't think that that's fair to the taxpayers. I don't think that it's fair, especially to the people of that community, if we continue to recognize a department that really isn't meeting the definition of a department.
No.
And so, commissioners, I would ask, if you're not ready to completely discontinue support, I would ask that you at least consider a temporary hiatus on monthly support payments to the Sugar Hill department. And I know you've seen the same data that I see. I watch it pretty closely month to month. I talk with Chief McRae and other firefighters about this. I think that it's time that we give serious consideration to allowing this department to discontinue, and so that we can at least be honest with other departments and honest with the people in that community that we just don't have the availability and volunteers to make this a viable department. That's not good news for anybody. Nobody's going to benefit from this decision. And again, perhaps there will be some people that will reconsider this.
How many active members did you say was on the Sugar Hill Fire Department that you know of?
I would say 3. Again,
3.
there's no communication between their leadership and me. So my best guess.
I do know that their chief is working for Stevenson Dirt, and he is currently stationed in the Metroplex area. So he is literally working out of town and has been for, I don't know, a few months.
Yeah.
He finished that.
Do you think
He
it'd be
finished up
possible?
on that.
He finished?
Yes.
Do you think it'd be possible to get those 3 members in here for a meeting to see what's actually going on? Possibly discuss some matters of what's happening?
You can invite them. I don't know whether they'll be able to attend or not.
But they've got, I talked to him this morning, they've got the tanker that John gave them, they got it going, and the engine's back in service. So they worked on it all weekend, getting it ready where they could have a tanker, because Sugar Hill was the only one that didn't have a tanker. 1,000 gallons is better than none at all.
Yeah.
So if, we give them 6 months on that deal. And said it was,
Well, it's great to have that piece of equipment. If there's nobody there to bring it, it's not going to do us any good.
they'll be there.
That's the problem right now.
I think that's why we decided let's do this for a limited period of time rather than transferring ownership of that piece of equipment. You've got a better pulse on the community than I do. What are the prospects here realistically?
Well, like I said, it's just most of them, like I said, I don't know why they're not showing up. There's some of them that's working, got baseball and, t-ball and girls softball, and they got, they're going to do that. And, but we have, I know Ronald Collins and Mr. Estrella, they're dedicated on this here, and let's see, with other, I don't know, this other assistant chief they got, I forgot his name. Who is he?
I've heard it's Scotty Watson.
Yeah, that's what it's Scotty, yeah. And so anyway, I said we need to, like I said, get them and say, look, we need to do something about it.
What's the appropriate way to go about that? I don't want to drag these guys in here and rake them over the coals in public. Is this something that we handle, individual conversations with them? I don't know what your line of communication is with these guys. I don't know any of these fellows well.
Right.
I don't know if they're at the point where they're ready to discontinue this. I don't know if they feel just as strongly as they did before. Where do you think we're at? Are you willing to continue to financially support this department?
Like I said, give them a timetable and say this is what we're going to do. They either do, they step up or they don't.
Could we discontinue the funds until evidence is shown that we do have a viable department?
He wouldn't. I don't know what to do then.
Well, I don't know where that money's going right now.
Well, like I said, most of they said they wanted to fix it. They fixed that engine, which had some part was messed up on it, wouldn't kick out of gear, and it was $700-800 for it. And then, like I said, the money's not being distributed wrongly. Like so, they put that money on the tanker, get lights and stuff like that, and get it ready to go. But I hadn't. Like I said, he just told me it was ready to go. I hadn't seen it, but I was going to go look at it.
Do you have reason to think that now that that's fixed, there's going to be more participation?
Because all we had was a brush truck or the engine. Now they got something they can actually take some water to, and somebody could give a little assistance.
And quite frankly, right now in the situation we're in, the brush trucks are more important than that tanker of getting
And what?
people. I said, quite frankly, it's more important to get brush trucks to the calls than those tankers right now. I'll give you an example. It's been about 3 weeks ago. We had a vehicle fire, which again, the VFDs are responsible for vehicle fires in their district. Well, Sugar Hill can't do it because they don't have the equipment and the people trained and to do that. Anyway, we drove all the way to Sugar Hill, put the car fire out, and it started a little bit of a grass fire. And once we got on scene, then Mr. Estrella checked en route that they were coming to the call, and we kept waiting, and they never got there. Somehow they had managed to run off in the ditch and got stuck. But again, it's those kind of situations as well, where we're already on scene, pretty much got it controlled before a lot of times they're even able to respond. So, there's really no, there's really no value. If we're going to have to drive all the way up there and take care of it, there's no need in them to even crank the truck up and come to the call. Or we wait and wait and wait, and the fire gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We finally decide, well, they're not going to come take care of it, so we go, and then it's a bigger job for us and the other VFDs that now have to respond up there. So, it's there has been some discussion in the chiefs meetings and others about, the county, the other departments having to carry the load. It's starting to be more expensive for them, obviously, with the gas and everything else, and to see that money go up there and not benefiting the county, it's going to be an issue, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's got to affect people's attitudes.
I got a question. Back on the 4th of March, we had a fire out there. You recollect that on Tommy Dyke's place?
Yeah, it was Tommy Dyke.
Did he tell him he couldn't get on his place or anything?
We've been up there so many times to Dyke's place. I'm not sure which call you're talking about.
It was a lady, Mrs. Spruill, called it in, and she was told that they couldn't get on Tommy Dyke's property, so they turned and left. But as the fire was going, but then she had to chase them back down because it crossed over Mr. Crabtree's place.
Yeah, there was a call like that.
And why can't it? Is there any way that they could put that?
As long as the fire is on his property.
Sir?
As long as the fire is on his property, then it's not a problem.
Why did they leave, though?
Because it's on his property. He didn't want them on there.
There's no law that say that they,
Nope. We've had the Texas Forest Service Law Enforcement Division involved in it. As long as it's on his property, even though it may get off later, if it's on his property, there's nothing to be done about it.
If you've got a grass fire on somebody's property that threatens to blow to a neighbor, you can't do anything?
Until it gets on that neighbor's property and that neighbor wants to press charges, there's nothing that can be done about it. And it is quite frankly a pain in the rear for us, because we've been up there half a dozen times on calls exactly like that, where it's on his property.
How can there be this many fires on one person's property?
Because he sets them and just walks off and leaves them.
Is there anything that law enforcement can do on something like that?
We've already had, like I said, we've had the Texas Forest Service Law Enforcement Branch, which deals with that kind of stuff. And it's like, as long as it's on his property, even though the wind's blowing 100 miles an hour, as long as it's on his property, there's nothing you can do about it.
How big is his property?
I don't know how many hundreds of acres it's up there that they own. In fact, there's been threats of violence against the firefighters if they get on his property. So we've had the Sheriff's Department up there with us. We've had DPS. We've had the Texas Forest Service Law Enforcement. That's what they're all telling us.
Has he explained his reasons for setting these fires? Crop management? I mean, what's going on? Is this
Just
negligence?
Unstable person?
I'll let you make that decision.
I don't know him. Wow.
But she was just wondering why that they didn't stay along, because they was themselves over in Crabtree's putting the grass fire where it wouldn't burn the house up. Then
That's what I just told you. I mean, Sugar Hill, if they're there, they can more welcome to stay there. But I'm not leaving all of our folks up there sitting there, because we may have a fire Tri-Lakes that need to be on. So it's not a good situation by any means, but that's the way it is.
So I still support a temporary, if not permanent, discontinuance of funding this department. I just don't see that we're getting anywhere. Now, if you feel differently and you feel like this new infusion of equipment is going to create a situation where we've got some more participation, then I'd like to hear about that. And I'm not going to make a motion, but I'm going to make a recommendation. Or we can ask for somebody to show up and discuss, the Sugar Hill Fire Department. If you think that would do any good.
I believe we need to put it out there first before we make a decision on it. Let the people come and talk and express themselves.
Okay. Well, back many months ago, we would put on the agenda a couple of times, status of Cookeville Fire Department. Why don't we at least put that on the meeting for the second meeting of this month and see if we get some response.
I agree.
And maybe some just residents will come, and maybe we can get some of the leadership of the department to come.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Commissioner Applewhite, what do you think about that?
That'd be fine.
Let's talk about Argo for just a second. Do we have a similar problem here? Is it getting worse, getting better, staying the same?
It's about the same. I mean, there's one member out there that makes calls with the truck, but there's not during the day, there's a lot of times it's maybe one person, one truck, maybe. But they're just a step above where Sugar Hill's at right now with their response. You can tell that by the paperwork there as well. Dana, are you still a member of that department or not?
Well, yeah, like I said, I told them that's conflict of interest.
Okay.
I mind helping them, but I'm not going to be.
The name's on a piece of paper is not what we're
Is that Jason Brooks? Is that the one that's the regular? Or Thomas? That's Thomas
Collier.
Thomas Collier.
Yeah,
Well, we've got a lot more folks there that are making 25% of the calls than we do at Sugar Hill. Chief, I appreciate you putting all this data together. It's easy to read. It's easy to get a fairly quick read of what's going on. We will ask Sugar Hill to be in attendance at the next meeting, or we'll invite them anyway to discuss this. And again, we just want to do what's right for that community, what's right for the taxpayers that are supporting it, and we want to be honest with the other departments, especially yours, as to what kind of, how much can you count on this department?
yeah. Like I said, right now we don't even consider, if it's a call in Sugar Hill, we don't consider them even part of the plan because usually they're not, or they're there way after the fact. So,
Commissioners, do you have any questions, comments, discussions while you have Chief McRae here? Thank you very much.
sir.
We appreciate you and your guys and your efforts here.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, I did put this on here as a action item if there was any possible action to follow. I would say that I'd like to see a motion that we invite the members of the Sugar Hill Volunteer Fire Department and any members of the community to be in attendance at our next meeting for an update, report, hear their side of the story.
I make that motion.
Okay. So Joyce, I'll word that the action that's coming out of item number 5 is to invite the Sugar Hill Fire Department and the constituents of that community for a discussion at the 25th of April meeting. Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Parchman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Applewhite. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, item number 6, we'll shift gears and talk about our College Road Chapel Hill Road, FM 1735 project. We have Gary Luba here with Lochner. And Gary, you've got some properties that you think we're ready to write some checks to, right? Will you give us an update here?
Okay. Yes, sir. So I've got, good morning, everybody.
How you feeling?
Good. Getting better all the time.
Good deal.
So I don't know if I look like I gained any more weight since last time. But
I'm not sure I would bring that to your attention.
So anyway, so yeah, we have a few more parcels that have been successfully negotiated, and so we're requesting checks from the county for closings. And I was hoping to have 6 today, but the other 3 will probably be next court meeting. And but the first one is Parcel 3, and that we negotiated that out at the offer amount, the appraised amount. But with everything with the title company fees and all, that comes to $1,952.71.
$1,900 roughly, okay.
Yes, sir. And that's Parcel 3 is right there on the State Highway 49 part where that fireworks stand is by the convenience store. So that one.
And that's a separate owner from the convenience store?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just got his deed like over the weekend, so just didn't have time to turn it into the title company to work that HUD up, but we'll have it next time.
Okay.
Let's see. So the next one is kind of a big one. It's Parcel 10. It's the purchase of the mobile home there beside Shane Calhoun's land, and so we're having to acquire that because it's all affected by the project, and so that acquires the mobile home, barbed wire fencing, septic system, and a storm shelter. So we had an approved admin settlement, and the total of that is $103,474.
We're ready to write a check on that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. Okay, and then the last one for today is Parcel 14. That is Shane Calhoun, where he lives. And so we negotiated that one out on the appraised amount, and with the title company fees added, the total is $23,862.71.
That's primarily for some land and improvements. There's no dwelling there like the mobile home.
Correct. Yeah. There's some preferred fencing and land, primarily.
Okay.
So, and that's it. That's all I have today.
So we were hoping for the other 3, but we're not quite there with the title company. So let's repeat this at the next meeting,
Yes,
2 weeks from now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it puts us getting them real close to being done, except for the 3 parcels that have to go through the eminent domain process. And I know that's in the works. And then
let's talk about that just for a second so that these guys are up to date. I guess I'll have a comment on it, but why don't you give a little background on these eminent domains and kind of give them a little bit of the background story. You don't necessarily have to talk about dollar amounts and names, and then we'll talk about who is, what kind of legal help do we need to address those.
Yes,
because
sir.
We've dealt with eminent domain in the past, and they've been some real ugly fights when we were involved in the loop, and these are a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay, so we have Parcel 2, and I'm trying to think of the guy's name right offhand. Well, there's 3. There's
maybe just talk about the nature of what are the circumstances that are causing it.
All 3 parcels are just bad title, like federal tax liens, property tax liens, and some judgments from just bills that were owed and never paid. And so the amounts, the compensation for these 3 parcels are not enough to pay those off. to clear title, we have to go through the eminent domain process.
It's not that we have an unwilling, well, maybe we have an unwilling landowner, but that's not primarily the issue that we have. It's not that, well, you're not paying me enough for my land, or you're bumping me off of my family property, or you're taking my home.
Yeah.
All three of these are situations where there are non-Titus County liens on these properties, and even if we had a willing seller that would love to let the county have it,
Yes,
can't do that.
correct.
We've got a governmental entity that's right now got this title clouded and tied up.
Yes, that's it, and that's the only reason everybody was fine with the offer amounts. But I'd love to be able to take them to closing, but we just can't. And in my experience, you have that on most all projects. Somebody somewhere, and so. Can I go ahead and talk about the attorney?
Yes.
Okay, so I think Kerry Wooten was going to, and he couldn't do it, and so I knew of a man in McKinney, Texas, that their firm, I think it's Saunders and Walsh, they do eminent domain for counties and cities, so they're very good. I know about them. I've kind of worked with them in the past, and so I suggested him, and he'll do a good job. And his name is Lewis Isaacs, is the lead guy.
And Gary and I talked many months ago about him thinking that this was we were going to eventually have to deal with this, and I knew that Kerry Wooten had some experience in this. He knows real estate law real well here and has dealt with some eminent domain issues. However, when we presented him with all the gory details of these particular cases, it's simply a matter of he didn't have the time, and I won't say he didn't have the expertise, because I don't think he said that, but these were going to be, despite the fact that they may seem relatively simple, there's a lot more to these eminent domain situations, especially when you're dealing with the IRS.
Yeah.
And Kerry looked at this and said this was going to be more time commitment than I'm able to give to the county, and I think he did tell me, you may need somebody with more expertise in this area, and he recommended this same firm, Lewis Isaacs, and his firm there in McKinney, right?
Yep.
And so I was on a Zoom call with Mr. Isaacs and 4 of his associates 2 weeks ago to just talk about what their firm's background was and how they could help this, and what some of their theoretical costs might be for similar cases such as this. And they're not cheap, but unfortunately we need a specialist in this case to help us with these. And these are not absolute obstacles necessarily, but they may stretch out the amount of time that's needed for the county to get solid title to these properties.
Usually on the federal tax lien, you got to give them like 60 days lead time, before the hearing date. And that's the main thing, is just time there.
And we're hoping that a county check waived in the face of the IRS or whoever might, they may not completely satisfy the lien, but at least they're getting some money. We hope that that's the outcome.
They'll probably get every bit of it, when they petition the court for the money after it's deposited in the court.
And these are small parcels, aren't they?
Yeah, this one is not. Parcel 2 is only like maybe $3-something thousand, and what they owe is way more than that, way more. And so it's kind of the same thing with Parcel 8 and 12. They're the same owner, so we can do them up together.
2 of them are the same owner and 1 of them's a different. They're not all connected.
Correct. That's
okay.
Right. And one thing about it, though, what I do for Lewis, I already had everything, packaged up, so they're just not looking at everything, trying to make heads or tails of it. I've got everything on an eminent domain request package, and that lines everything out. Who the fee owners are, their addresses, the IRS they can find that, but it's all readily available there on those sheets that I fill in. The easement holders, whoever has a stake, And so that should make it easier for him to draw up his petition, to file.
And just again, to be clear, there's nobody on this court and there's nobody at Lochner that has the legal background to deal with an eminent domain issue of this nature.
We can provide like some support things, like we can, after they have like notices of hearing, we can go out and serve those, but as far as legal stuff, we can't do. So that's why we have to have somebody like Lewis Isaacs.
All right. Okay, so we need approval to make these 3 payments, to authorize the auditor's office to go ahead and cut checks for these 3 parcels, 3, 10, and 14.
Yes, and 10. 3, 10, and 14.
Yeah, 3, 10, and 14.
Make a motion, we approve the payments.
I think I heard you first. I'll accept the motion from Commissioner Applewhite. I've got a second from Commissioner Parchment. Is there any discussion? Do you have any questions for Gary on why we should or shouldn't write the checks to these 3 property owners?
Judge Lee, I have one question.
Okay.
I think I know the answer to it, but I understand that one of these checks is going to the title company and the other 2 are going directly to...
2 of them will be going to the title company, and 1 is going directly to Parcel 10, that the lady that owns the mobile home, Britta Lowry and her husband, and then her brother and sister-in-law. So yeah, you have to basically pay them directly because you got to get that with a quitclaim deed, and the title company's not going to insure title and a quitclaim deed, but so all we're buying is just really improvements and not land. Now, the land is going to be her uncle, which is Walter Jones. So we'll go to closing with him on the land.
Okay.
But that's not included in this.
No.
This check right now, apparently somebody, a friend or a family member, has got a mobile home that sits on property that belongs to somebody else.
Yes.
But all we're doing
That's
right
correct.
now is we're paying them for their mobile home.
Yes, yeah. And they're being displaced by the project because it basically takes out their septic, and they have no way to cure that. So,
Can the physical dwelling be moved?
yes. And it seems like she wants to take care of moving it off. So that'll be no cost to the county,
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to touch it anyway because it's not bisected by the right-of-way line, but it's still affected. So it's no longer livable, in other words, in that location.
Got it. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any good question. Anything else? Okay. So 1 payment going directly to a mobile home owner, non-real estate. The other 2 checks are going to the title company for purchase of real property. Got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. 2 weeks, I'll have you back on the agenda.
Okay.
If it's a relatively short presentation and you want to give me a narrative to read in your absence, you can consider that. If you want to join us in person, that's great too.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Item number 7, consider and possibly approve an annual contract with Newman Electronics for the maintenance of cameras and digital recording equipment. Dennis Newman's been maintaining and expanding and fine-tuning and replacing parts on our overall county surveillance equipment that includes cameras and digital recording equipment. He himself or his folks are here on a regular basis, cleaning filters and making sure cameras are functional. And that costs time and money. $7,200 is the cost of the annual contract to do that work, to maintain and make sure all of this stuff is functioning the way that it's supposed to. You can't just set it up, turn it on, and walk away forever. You've got to make sure that these cameras continue to work properly and replace those filters in them. So, renewal of a one-year contract that begins March and ends February 28th. Contract will renew automatically each March 1. We try to put this on the agenda just to discuss it. Just generally talking about what are we getting for this. The duties that Newman will perform monthly examine the 6 DVR, the digital video recorders. There's 6 of those involved in our overall system, and those are associated at the Courthouse Annex, Justice Center, the tax office, adult probation. Check for correct recording on each DVR. Make sure the network connections are correct. Some of these are wireless connections, and those have got to be maintained. Ensure that each camera is operational, aimed in the right place, focused correctly, repair any minor faults or problems. Then the duties performed every 6 months in conjunction with the monthly visit. Clean the DVR fans, vents, filters, check wiring connections, clean the lenses, inspect the camera housings. And again, this will be a one-year contract, essentially a renewal, $7,200. The copy of the invoice is included. Grand total $7,200, no taxes included in that figure.
Make a motion.
Motion
We approve
to
the contract.
approve this renewal and contract for 1 year with Newman Electronics is made by Commissioner Fitch,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Parchman. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Item number 8, consider and possibly approve making the road behind the Precinct 2 maintenance facility a private road. Commissioner Fitch, tell us about this.
We have a road behind our 15-acre facility in Precinct 2, right off of 3417, and basically we had it gated on one end up at the Tri-Sud water station, up at kind of by our front gate, and we use it all the time coming and going on our property, coming in that backside, hauling materials and getting wrapped and such. The other side of the road is owned by Preferts, so we just share the road like a little private road. But he's building a house up there, Nate Prefert's building a house, and so we need to name this road a road number for 911 purposes. And I was going to
That
have
would be
it.
his address.
His address will be on that private road. Yeah.
And right now, it's not had a name before.
Yeah, it's never. At one time, it was a county road. It just got cut off, that little piece there, and they just never used it for anything except just landowners access.
You got a number for it?
We have no
at this
number
point?
yet, so we'll have to call COG,
COG will give you that number.
get the road number, and then get him a house address for his house. So I was going to just make a motion to make that little piece of road. It's about half-mile long, circles our property, a private road. We want to put gates. We got a gate on one end. We want to put a gate on the other end, and we're going to put a gate midway down that goes into our property off of it for security. We have a lot of dumping issues out there. We have a lot of just abandoned cars, mischief, and so I think it'd be a little more secure as far as our property and somebody stealing something or getting into no good. Plus, people still go out there shooting a lot. I'm thinking that's a gun range out there. They come in on that road, so we'll gate it, try to keep them from shooting,
So will
possibly
there be
hurting somebody.
will there be some new gates constructed as a result of this project?
There's a bar that goes across the end down by our front gate. Preferts has said that he would just replace all them gates if we let him replace them. He said, we're going to put gates up. He said, he'll do it. I said, I sure appreciate it. So he's going to put some gates up. A lot of times they'll be open anyway because we're working out there or they're working in and out. But we will have them where we can shut things down out there.
Is that his primary access to the driveway off of this road?
Yes. Yeah, can't get there really from the highway unless you go on this road because of the way the bottom and the bridges are and everything out there.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we get a name for the private road that is right. It's on, half of that road is Titus County on my property and half of it's on their property. That's why we share it so much. So anyway, I want to keep that property in Titus County. So let's make a motion to make that half mile a private road that is at the back of our property for Precinct 2's maintenance barn.
And that be converted to a formal private road to be, the number to be supplied by Council of Governments.
Yeah, Architects Council of Governments will get the road.
All right. Motion, I have a second. Did I hear you, Jeff? Second, yes. Second by Commissioner Parchman. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 10, approve oral and written reports. County officials, Barbara's provided for you.
Number 9.
I don't want to do that one.
Okay.
Item number 9, sorry about that, I skipped that. Commissioner Parchman would like to talk to us about the main courthouse building, cleaning the exterior of that. Commissioner?
You can't help but notice all the black mold growing on the outside of the building. And I just wanted to see what it would cost, get some bids on pressure washing it, see what, see if anybody would be interested in doing it, and see what we'd be looking at money-wise.
Okay. Has anybody approached you about doing this kind of work?
I talked to Mark Stansel's son, and he does it. He mentioned to me that he did the Pilgrim's Freezer out there on 271, and he said he'd done that one and said nothing to it, said he could do it. Or I'm sure there's several other ones out there that could do it as well. But I think we'd probably put an ad in the paper or advertise it and see if there's anybody
I think it's going to have to be done anyway if we ever end up painting the courthouse. See what the exterior looks like underneath some of the mold. It's just this east side and the south side has the most mold on it. The rest of the courthouse looks pretty good.
Well, there's so much shade
it'll look even better
by
power
those
washed.
trees. That shade
Yeah.
keeps the sunlight from, anytime you've got a shady side of a building, unfortunately you deal with this, and we did some cleanup on this years ago, and it may be time to do that again.
I think it looked good power washed. So
Yeah, I make a motion, we get some bids on it and discuss it on the next meeting.
Could I ask you to maybe put something together in words as how you think it ought to be worded, and I'll make sure that it gets to the paper?
Sure. I can do that.
All right, got a motion. Did I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, Commissioner Fitch. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, item number 10, approve oral and written reports.
Make a motion, we approve the reports.
Second.
Motion is made by Commissioner Fish, and a second comes from Commissioner Applewhite. Thank you for Nanette for getting us those last week. Any discussion, questions, comments? You have Barbara here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'll get your signature on that in a moment. And we have right behind that item number 11, consider and possibly approve your treasurer's report from Cheryl.
Make a motion, we approve the treasurer's report.
And we have a motion by Commissioner Parchman.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fitch. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
And if I could get your signatures. Item number 12 is our usual budget amendments. We don't have any budget amendments this month. Still true, Barbara?
That's true.
So nothing, no action on item number 12, item 13. And I don't know who's going to approve this. Jimmy's out of town. Approve payments for our current round of bills. Sign those pay orders.
Make a motion.
Motion is made by Commissioner Applewhite.
Second.
And second by Commissioner Fitch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item number 14, closing comments. I couldn't think of anything that I had. I appreciate the discussion today. I continue to appreciate Chief McCray, and I know this sometimes gets to be uncomfortable discussions, but it's important, and we need this background information as we prepare to enter into some discussions with the City of Mount Pleasant to solve the ongoing problem of who's going to provide fire protection, and how do we do that in the most efficient and effective way. And I don't know that anybody has the perfect answer for that, but we want to be as honest as we can with the people that live in the communities that are served by both our volunteer departments as well as our City of Mount Pleasant Fire Department. And we want everybody, we want to be able to provide the very best protection that we can, and we want that cost burden to be shared by the appropriate people that support us, the county, and support the city with their taxes. So again, thank you for the time that we had this morning on that. We'll talk about that some more at the next meeting. That's all I have. Commissioner Applewhite, anything today? Commissioner Fitch? No. Commissioner Parchman?
I just want to say I support all of our volunteer fire departments, and I hope we can come and find a solution for the Sugar Hill Fire Department. I think closing that down would be a big mistake, and we'd be asking for a lot of trouble if we did that. So.
Well, and I voiced the same sentiments as you, but at the same time, we've got to, we can't put on a front that we've got a department if we don't really have a functioning department. I think we owe it to our constituents to be honest, but I do think that we need to be as positive as we can to encourage those that are spending the time to show up for events and getting the training, and we just need to, encourage this this group of guys and gals as well as that community to let's figure out a way to have a functioning department. And we understand that maybe the demands of departments in the future is going to look different. Maybe we're going to be primarily water providers. I don't know what the future of volunteer fire protection looks like, but we don't want to alienate, and we don't want to close somebody down where there is strong, legitimate support and ability to, to provide the manpower in that department. So I appreciate your comments. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Motion, Commissioner Applewhite, and second by Commissioner Fitch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.